कहाँ अगाडि जाने भने
understands the Nepali people, speaks Nepali, and loves Nepal. He has been in Kathmandu previously as Deputy Chief of Mission and as attaché. He has a deep interest to protect Nepal's most vulnerable. One way that he has promoted literacy has been by launching the Book Bus, a mobile library in Nepal. I was also impressed to see him at the Rotary meeting, even when there was a Bandh in Nepal. I would like to request His Ambassador, Excellency of U.S. Ambassador, to come and give some comments about the book. Thank you.
Guest, I have to tell you what an honor it is to be here today to introduce the book of a friend, a fellow Rotarian, but also as someone who comes from an immigrant family. I grew up in an immigrant family. My mother was German, my grandfather was Dutch, my grandmother on my American side was second-generation Irish-American, and I had a German grandmother. So what you write about is very close to my heart. Now, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and namaste. I am pleased to welcome you to celebrate the publication of The Best of Both Worlds, a pioneer's perspective on straddling East and West. I am delighted to see all the friends and well-wishers who are here today to honor my friend, Ms. Neva Pradhan, her life, and the creation of these unique chronicles. As the U.S. Ambassador to Nepal, I'm proud to honor a Nepalese American who used her success in the United States to make a lasting contribution to her native home. Through Neva's work to expand education and health opportunities among disadvantaged communities here in Kathmandu, and her volunteer work with the International Association for Human Values in Washington, D.C., she exemplifies what it is to be a citizen of two cultures. And trust me, as somebody who's had one foot in two cultures most of his life, that's not always an easy thing to do. In a very moving story, Neva relays the account of her upbringing in Nepal, the challenges she faced as a student in the United States, and the critical questions she confronted raising a family in her adopted homeland. Neva truly shows how one can hold on to one's roots while adapting to life in a new country. Quite frankly, I think that's what makes the United States special, is that we are a nation of immigrants, and we're filled with people who hold on to their roots while making a new life and taking advantage of the opportunity the United States has to offer. Now, in this captivating autobiography, The Best of Both Worlds, it's a personal history of one extraordinary woman's life in both Nepal and the United States. Moreover, it speaks to the journey of thousands of immigrants who came to America seeking new opportunities every year, like my mother. As President Obama said, what makes somebody an American is not just blood or birth, but allegiance to our founding principles and the faith in the idea that anyone from anywhere who can write the next great chapter of our story. I know that Neva is pleased that her chapter in the American story is at last available in the wider world and here today. I'm pleased to be here celebrating with all the people who made it possible. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It was very inspiring to hear your experience on cross-culture. I learned a new thing again, that your mother was also an immigrant. I would like to request Dr. Shankar Sharma, former Nepalese ambassador, to speak. Dr. Sharma held numerous positions such as Vice Chairman at the National Planning Commission in Nepal, and over the years, he has held many important regional and global positions. He has a PhD in economics from the University of Hawaii. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Shankar Sharma.
I'd like to congratulate Nivaji for bringing out such an important and outstanding book. Best of the book, Best of the Both Worlds is basically Nivaji's journey from Kathmandu to the United States. She was grown up in a Newari culture in Kathmandu and had to adjust herself with her husband in the entirely new culture in a foreign land. Her stay was long enough to raise her children in the United States. But the good thing is that the children were very fortunate that she and her husband taught them how to assimilate into the Western culture while still maintaining Nepalese cultural values and familiarity with our heritage. She was able to keep the best and vital part of Nepali and Newari culture and embrace the part of new culture which were useful to advance her and her family in the new environment. And useful and practical. I was in US for almost 5 years in my earlier days when I was doing my PhD, and again 4 years plus the second time when I was the ambassador from Nepal to the United States. Our initial condition was probably much better compared to many Nepalese who have migrated to the United States. She didn't have to struggle for living. Rajesh ji is here, I guess. She became professional, housewife, community leader, spiritual practitioner and expert, and was able to adapt large part of new culture in the United States. I think that was something great about her and her family. She was able to benefit from both culture and socio-economic environment that I have seen personally while staying in Washington, D.C. for more than 4 years. But most of the other Nepalese, this may not be the case. Many Nepalese are working hard for their survival and betterment of their children. I think the focus of most of the South Asians are their children, not themselves, basically. In America, they feel that, and most of the immigrants, they feel that their faces are different, eat different food, South Asian mostly curries, I guess, speak differently, and lived with different rules from their friends. I think we have seen that, we have observed that those who have stayed in US and European countries, they can internalize what I was saying. In Nepal, when they come back, I think I'm sure they'll have some dollars, they travel by car, and people say that how Americanized these people are, staying in US for a couple of years. So they sometimes feel that they are not fit in both places, so they are lost. I think that's the biggest part. That's the biggest challenge for most of the Nepalese and immigrants. Large numbers of children are affected and have difficulty in accommodating American values and their parents' expectations simultaneously. I think we have seen most of these examples from even Nepali families in the United States. In addition, Nepalese communities are growing in many parts of the United States, but they are still dispersed and thinly spread. Many of their children neither have the opportunity to participate in the Nepalese cultural activities, which is changing very fast. Now every American city will have some kind of Nepalese activities, traditional activities, dasai, and number of other things. Nor they are encouraged by their parents to participate in those activities. You know how our parents are, basically the South Asian and Nepalese parents are. They may also not afford to visit Nepal regularly to expose their children to their culture because of financial constraint. Cultural difference may add to the sense of isolation if not handled properly. So I think what she has given some kind of lessons to all the people who are migrated in the United States and other countries, I think the lessons are very strong and very good. So what are some of the lessons that I found out from the book? It's okay to be different. US is a country of immigrants. Everyone faces challenge, all the immigrants. In Washington, D.C., nobody asks, even if you speak with a different accent, nobody usually will ask you what country you come from. Now you know, I think the head of South Asia Bureau in the State Department, who is responsible for the whole of South Asia and Central Asia, Cs of Indian origin, first generation migrants from India. Until very recently, the head of USAID, first generation Indian migrant to the United States. I think his position was something like the Deputy Secretary, I think very high position. I have seen many advisors of Indian and Chinese origin in the United States. So I think it's different. USCs, I think I attended one program in Los Angeles City. It was a program organized by the mayor of the city of Los Angeles. And I think the deputy mayor at that time was somebody who spent 1 year in Bhaktapur. So he greeted me in Nepali and he gave me his Nepali name. And what the mayor told in the speech is that there are people, immigrants in Los Angeles who speak 138 different languages. So he has to deal with all these people. And in US and most of the developing countries, they think that the diversity will increase the productivity. But it's the other way around in our countries. I think that diversity sometimes, we think that will invite the conflict because of probably our economy. They think that in US, it will definitely increase the productivity, and I think I have seen many economic journal papers proving those kind of things in many cities in the United States to the fullest. So I think that's the basic message the book is providing to all of us. So by understanding and loving other culture, you can be more open-minded towards other people and helps to strengthen individual and invisible bond.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. The Nepalese people miss you in Washington, D.C. They were grateful to have you as their advocate, as you have seen, ladies and gentlemen, in his speech. He has a heart for all the Nepalese immigrants. Now I would like to request senior journalist Mr. Kunda Dikshit, who has been instrumental in bringing awareness to many burning issues in Nepal and the world, magazine in Nepal, and is also co-publisher of Himal South Asia magazine. He also serves as a director for Asia Pacific for Interpress Service. Mr. Dikshit previously worked as a reporter for the BBC at the United Nations and is a graduate of Columbia University at the prestigious School of Journalism. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming senior journalist Mr. Kunda Dikshit.
And while I was in New York, I flunked my driving test twice. Once for running a red light during my driving test. But I finally got a license, and I was driving around the US quite a bit with my younger son at the back. And I used to shout obscenities at people who, on either side, overtook me or did something nasty. And I used to use the word moron a lot. And one day, while we were driving down from New York to Washington, there was a nasty guy who overtook from the left, endangering us. And my son pipes up from behind and he says, "Baba, you forgot to say moron." Now, I returned to Nepal, and we all have anecdotes like these of cross-cultural experiences as we dealt with different cultures. Our family came back 18 years ago to Kathmandu, and a lot of the anecdotes, the experiences that we read in Niva's book are a lot of things that we identify with ourselves. We've all been through it, we've seen it, and we've also noticed how Niva and her family have dealt with those conflicts. Rajesh was my classmate in high school. Where is he? I won't tell you when we graduated. And my niece is currently married to their son. So it shows you that not just Nepal is getting more and more integrated through inter-ethnic marriages. But this is also a transcontinental coming together. And as we move on, this intergenerational change of Nepali expats in the US and elsewhere, and as the numbers grow of Nepalis living abroad, I think this is what will ultimately bring and unite Nepalis all over the world, not just in Nepal. This is a very deeply personalized and frank discussion of multiculturalism and things that we grapple with in all our families. You don't necessarily have to live in the US to deal with multiculturalism. How do you balance your traditional values with the new world, with new communication technologies? And it's intergenerational, as we heard. And families have to grapple with those traditional values against the materialism of the West. And you see in Neva's book this attempt to come to terms with that materialism. And you see her drifting, not drifting, but coming closer to her spiritual self. And this is actually probably very logical, because that is the gap in Western materialism that is not able to fill, that civilization is not able to fill. So that in Neva's family we see the attempt to complement the two civilizations in a way that it blends the best of both worlds. And I think for many of us that will be the best lesson from this book, that although the East is East and the West is West, in Neva's book the twain actually meet and can be allowed to meet quite harmoniously. I'm back to Nepal and my road rage is worse than ever. And I'm using words that are much stronger than moron now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dixit, for your interesting comments. We all enjoyed your anecdote. And just to let you know, Neeraj and Rachana celebrated their first year anniversary and are happily married. So, it takes creativity and courage to be a journalist in Nepal, and we appreciate you for the hard work. And thank you also for pointing out that the Western materialism and the Eastern spirituality, in Neva's book, there's a blend and there's a meeting place. Thank you. So, there are many here in the audience that have experienced the struggle as an immigrant, but Neva had the determination to write about her perspective. As her youngest sister, I have always followed her around. I commend her for completing the book. Life is not easy in America. After work, we still have to cook and clean. Recently, when my sisters were on Skype, they said, "How are you?" And I'd just gone back to States, and my staff, Lakshman, came on Skype, and I started crying. America. So I wasn't crying for my sisters, I wasn't crying for anyone, I was just crying that I missed Lakshman. And he's here in the audience today, still helping out.